Hello, friends. It's me. I've got a fresh batch of stories for you today, and I'll be honest, some of these have been sitting in my inbox for weeks because I genuinely didn't know what to make of them. You know those submissions where you read them once, then read them again, then kind of just sit there staring at your screen. That's what we're working with today. We've got midnight encounters, objects that refuse to follow the basic rules of reality, places that shouldn't exist, and a few stories that are going to make you question whether you really know what's going on around you when you're not paying attention. So grab your coffee, get comfortable, and let's dive in. Story 1. The Version of Me That Got There First, by You, Night Shift, Nurse 83. This happened to me about 7 months ago, and I still think about it almost every day. I work as an ER nurse at a hospital in Columbus, Ohio. I've been doing this for 11 years, so I've seen a lot of strange things happen during night shifts. Weird patient stories, equipment malfunctions, things that are easy to write off as exhaustion or the general chaos of emergency medicine. But this was different. It was early February, around 2 in the morning. The ER was actually quiet for once, which almost never happens. I was on break and decided to walk down to the vending machines on the second floor because the ones near the ER were out of the specific granola bar I like. It's a small thing, but when you're working a 12-hour overnight, those little snacks matter. I took the elevator up, walked down the hallway toward the vending area, and as I turned the corner, I stopped dead in my tracks. I'm not exaggerating when I say my entire body went cold. There was a woman standing at the vending machine. She was wearing the exact same scrubs I was wearing, same color, same style. Her hair was pulled back in the same ponytail I had mine in, and when she turned slightly to the side to look at the snack options, I saw her profile. It was me. I'm not talking about someone who looked like me. I'm talking about my face, my nose, the little scar I have near my left eyebrow from a childhood accident. It was me. I stood there, frozen. I think I stopped breathing. She, or I guess I should say the other me, was just casually looking at the vending machine like nothing was wrong. She hadn't noticed me yet. I remember my heart was pounding so hard, I could feel it in my throat. I don't know what made me do this, but I ducked back around the corner. I was terrified, honestly. I pressed my back against the wall and just tried to process what I was seeing. After maybe 10 seconds, I worked up the courage to peek around the corner again. She was gone. The hallway was completely empty. I walked over to the vending machine, and here's the part that still messes with me. There was a granola bar stuck in the dispenser, the exact kind I had come up there to get, like someone had just bought it and it got jammed. I did not buy that granola bar. I hadn't even put money in yet. I was still holding the dollar bills in my hand. I looked around the hallway, checked the nearby bathroom, the supply closet, everywhere. There was no one. And that floor was pretty deserted at that hour anyway. The elevator hadn't moved. I could see the indicator lights from where I was standing, and it was still on the second floor. I ended up just grabbing the stuck granola bar and going back to the ER. I didn't tell anyone at work because, honestly, how do you even start that conversation? Hey, I just saw myself buying a snack on the second floor. I've gone over this 1,000 times in my head. I wasn't sleep-deprived. I'd actually gotten good rest before that shift. I wasn't under the influence of anything. I wasn't even particularly stressed out. It was just a normal Tuesday night until it wasn't. The thing that haunts me is the timing. It's like some other version of me got there a few seconds before I did, and did exactly what I was about to do. like I was watching myself on a slight delay. I don't know what to call this. I've never experienced anything like it, before or since. But every time I go up to those vending machines now, I hesitate at that corner. I always look first, just in case. All right, so check this out. This next one is short, but it's stuck with me since I first read it. Story 2. The Keys That Multiplied by You, Just a Dad in Phoenix. I feel like I need to preface this by saying I'm not a superstitious person. I'm an accountant. I work with numbers all day. I like things that make logical sense. So when I tell you what happened with my car keys, please understand that I have no explanation for it, and that bothers me more than the event itself. Last October, my wife and I were getting ready to head out for dinner. It was our anniversary, a Saturday evening, around 6:30. I grabbed my car keys from the hook by the front door, where I always keep them, put them in my jacket pocket, and walked out to the car. I unlocked the car, got in, and reached into my pocket to put the keys in the ignition. Except my pocket was empty. I checked my other pocket. Empty. Checked my pants pockets, patted myself down completely. No keys. I figured I must have dropped them somewhere between the door and the car, so I got out and retraced my steps. Nothing on the ground, nothing on the porch. My wife was still inside finishing her makeup, so I went back in to check the key hook. My keys were hanging there, right where they always are. I know, you're thinking I just forgot to grab them. But here's the thing. I distinctly remember unlocking the car. The car was unlocked when I got back to it, and my wife's keys were in her purse. I asked her later. I grabbed the keys from the hook and went back to the car, and that's when I noticed something that made my stomach drop. There was another set of keys sitting on the driver's seat. My keys. Same keychain, same car key, same house key, same little bottle opener thing my son gave me for Father's Day. I picked them up and compared them to the set in my hand. They were identical, not similar. Identical. Same scratches on the metal. Same slight bend in the keychain loop. I stood there in my driveway, holding 2 sets of my keys, and I genuinely didn't know what to do. I ended up putting 1 set in my pocket and 1 set on the hook when we got home that night. I figured I'd deal with it later. The next morning, there was only 1 set. The set on the hook was gone. I searched the entire house, checked under furniture, in drawers, everywhere. It just vanished, like it was never there. My wife thinks I'm losing it, but I know what I saw. I held both sets in my hands. They were real. They had weight. And now one of them just doesn't exist anymore. I still don't know which set I have now. The original or the duplicate. Does it even matter? I don't know. I just know that for one night, there were 2 of them, and now there's 1. And that's not how objects are supposed to work. Here's another one for you. This submission came in last week, and the detail in it is what really got me. Story 3. The Passenger Who Wasn't There, by You Late Night Lift. Chai, I'm a rideshare driver in Chicago. I've been doing it for about 4 years now, mostly evening and late night shifts, because the pay is better. I've had my share of weird passengers. Everyone who does this job has stories. But what happened to me last month isn't something I can file away as just another strange fare. It was a Thursday night, around 1:15 in the morning. I was parked near Wicker Park, waiting for a ride request. It was a slow night, kind of cold for April, and I was considering just heading home when my phone pinged with a pickup request. The name was just the letter M, and the pickup was about 3 blocks away. I drove over and pulled up to the address. It was a brownstone, nice neighborhood, pretty quiet at that hour. I waited for a couple of minutes, watching the app. It said the passenger was walking toward the car. Then I heard the back door open and close. I looked in my rearview mirror, and there was a woman sitting in the back seat. Average build, dark hair, wearing a gray coat. She was looking out the window, not at me. I said something like, "Hey, how's it going? Just confirm the destination for me." She didn't respond. I figured maybe she was tired or just didn't feel like chatting. Some passengers are like that, and I don't take it personally. The app showed the destination as an address in Lincoln Park, about 15 minutes away. Standard ride. I started driving. The streets were pretty empty, so it was an easy trip. Every now and then I'd glance in the rearview mirror just out of habit. She was still there, still looking out the window. She never moved, never checked her phone, just sat completely still. We got to the destination, a residential building with a small courtyard out front. I pulled over and said, "All right, we're here." Nothing. I turned around to look at her directly. The back seat was empty. "I'm not talking about—" She slipped out quietly. I mean, the seat was empty, and I had been looking at her in the mirror less than a minute before. I hadn't stopped the car, hadn't unlocked the doors, hadn't heard anything open or close. I sat there for a good 30 seconds just staring at the back seat. I checked the floor, like maybe she'd somehow ducked down there. I got out of the car and looked on the sidewalk, around the building entrance. Nobody. I got back in and checked my app. The ride had completed. It showed a fare of $12.80. It showed a pickup time, a drop-off time, everything. The passenger had even left a tip, $3. I called my girlfriend immediately because I needed someone to tell me I wasn't crazy. She said maybe I imagined it, maybe I was tired. But I wasn't tired. I'd only been driving for a couple of hours. I was completely sober, completely alert. The next day, I went back and looked at my ride history. The trip was still there. Pickup in Wicker Park, drop-off in Lincoln Park, passenger M. I tried to click on the passenger profile, but it was blank. No photo, no rating history, nothing. I've thought about this every single day since it happened. I saw her get in. I heard the door. I watched her in the mirror for 15 minutes. She was wearing a gray coat. She had dark hair. She was real. And then she just wasn't. I'm still driving, but now I always turn around and look directly at my passengers when they get in. Every single time. Just to make sure they're actually there. Okay, this next one is wild. I've been sitting on this one for a while, because I honestly didn't know what to make of it. It's longer, but trust me, it's worth it. Story 4. The Gas Station That Isn't on Any Map by You Chew Trucker Mike. Midwest. I've been driving trucks for 22 years. Long haul, mostly. I've covered almost every major highway in the lower 48, and I know the roads better than I know my own neighborhood. I know where the rest stops are, where the good diners are, where to fuel up, and where to avoid. So when I tell you that something impossible happened on a stretch of road I've driven maybe 100 times, I need you to understand that I'm not easily confused about locations. This happened last November. I was hauling a load from Kansas City to Denver, a route I've done more times than I can count. It was around 11:30 at night, and I was somewhere in western Kansas, that long, flat stretch, where there's not much to look at except fields and the occasional farmhouse. I was planning to stop at my usual fuel station near Oakley, which I've been stopping at for years. Except I missed it. Or at least, I thought I missed it. I kept driving, figured I'd just hit the next one. But here's the thing. I know that stretch of I-70. There's not another station for a good 30 miles after Oakley, and my fuel gauge was getting lower than I liked. That's when I saw lights up ahead. A gas station sitting just off the highway on the right side. I didn't remember this place at all, which was strange. It looked kind of old-fashioned, like it was built in the 70s or 80s. Had those old-style pumps with the rolling number displays, not digital. There was a small convenience store attached with a big window and fluorescent lights inside. I pulled in because I needed fuel, and honestly, I was just glad something was there. There were no other cars in the lot. I got out, stretched my legs, and walked toward the store to prepay. The air felt strange. I don't know how else to describe it. It was completely still. No wind at all, which is unusual for Kansas in November. And it was quiet in a way that felt wrong. No highway noise, even though I was right off the interstate. I pushed open the door to the store, and there was a man behind the counter. Older guy, maybe 60s, wearing a plain blue shirt. He nodded at me and said something like, "Evening, what can I get you?" I told him I needed to fill up, gave him $60 in cash, and asked him where the restroom was. He pointed to the back of the store. Normal interaction, nothing weird about him at all. I used the restroom, came back out, and that's when I noticed the calendar on the wall behind the counter. It was one of those old paper calendars with a landscape photo at the top, and the year on it was 1987. Now, people have old calendars hanging up sometimes. It's not that unusual in rural places, but something about it made me look closer. The page was turned to November 1987, and it didn't look old. It looked brand new. The paper was crisp and white, not yellowed at all. I asked the guy, just making conversation, "That's an old calendar you got there." He looked at it, and then looked back at me with this confused expression. "Just got it last month," he said. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just nodded and walked out to fill up my truck. The pumps worked fine. The fuel went into my tank. Everything seemed normal. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The lights from the store seemed too bright, like they were the only lights in the world. I couldn't see any other buildings, any other cars, anything. I finished fueling, got back in my truck, and pulled out onto the highway. I looked in my mirrors as I drove away, and the station was there, lit up behind me. I could see it getting smaller in the distance. The next morning, I was curious. I pulled up Google Maps and tried to find that gas station. I searched the whole stretch of I-70 between Oakley and the Colorado border. There's nothing there. No gas station on the north side of the highway in that area. I zoomed in as much as I could. Nothing. I called a buddy of mine who's been driving that route even longer than I have. Described the station to him, the old pumps, the little store. He said he's never seen anything like that on that stretch. Said there used to be a station out there years ago, but it closed down sometime in the early 90s and got torn down. I drove that route again 2 weeks later. I watched for it the whole way. It wasn't there. Just empty fields where I swear I had pulled off the road. But here's the thing that really gets me. I checked my receipts from that trip. I always keep receipts for tax purposes, and I have one from my usual stop in Oakley, time-stamped at 10:45 that night. Except, I distinctly remember missing Oakley. That's why I stopped at the other station. But according to my receipts, I bought fuel in Oakley at 10:45. I don't have a receipt from the other place. The one with the old pumps and the 1987 calendar. The one that doesn't seem to exist. But I was there. I walked on that concrete. I smelled the gasoline. I talked to that man. I used the restroom. I've gone over this 1,000 times in my head. I wasn't tired. I'd slept well that day. I wasn't under the influence of anything. I know that road like I know my own name. Either I stopped at a place that doesn't exist, or I somehow stopped at a place that hasn't existed for over 30 years. I don't know which possibility is more unsettling. If anyone else has driven that stretch and seen anything like this, I really want to know about it. Because right now, I'm starting to question everything I think I know about the roads I've been driving for 2 decades. All right, we're just getting started here. I've got more stories coming up, including one about a conversation that shouldn't have been possible, and another about a house that had a few too many rooms. We'll be right back. Hey, it's me. Before we get into the next batch of stories, I want to ask you something kind of random. Do you have a place that you pass by regularly that just feels wrong? Not scary, not dangerous, just off somehow. Like there's something about it that your brain can't quite process. I've got one of those near where I live. It's this little strip of road between 2 neighborhoods, maybe a 1/4 mile long. Nothing special about it. Trees on both sides, couple of houses, totally normal. But every single time I drive through there, especially at dusk, I get this weird feeling in my chest, like my body is bracing for something. I've asked other people who live in the area, and 2 of them said they feel it too. One guy said he always holds his breath when he drives through there, without even realizing he's doing it. No idea what it is about that spot. Nothing bad has ever happened there as far as I know. It just feels like reality is thinner there somehow. I don't know. Maybe I'm just weird. Anyway, let me know in the comments if you've got a spot like that. I'm curious if this is a common thing, or if I'm just losing it. All right, let's get back to the stories. Story 5. The Language. I Shouldn't Have Understood, by YouTube Quiet Librarian, Chia PDX. I need to preface this by saying I only speak English. I took 2 years of Spanish in high school and can barely order food at a restaurant. Languages have never been my thing. My brain just doesn't work that way. So what happened to me last March makes absolutely no sense. I work at a public library in Portland, Oregon. It's a big branch, lots of foot traffic, and we get people from all kinds of backgrounds coming through. That's one of the things I love about the job. But this particular evening, around 7:30, something happened that I still can't explain. I was shelving books in the foreign language section when I heard 2 women talking nearby. They were speaking in what I assumed was an Eastern European language. I couldn't identify it specifically, but it definitely wasn't Spanish or French or anything I'd been exposed to. Lots of consonants, unfamiliar rhythm. They were having what seemed like a casual conversation, maybe about what books to check out. And then, without any transition, I understood them. It wasn't like I was translating in my head. It was like someone had flipped a switch, and suddenly the sounds coming out of their mouths were just words. Clear, comprehensible words. One of them was telling the other that her daughter's recital had been rescheduled to the following Saturday, and she was worried about finding a dress in time. The other woman said something about a shop on Hawthorne Street that had good prices. I stood there frozen, holding a book about Romanian history. I remember that detail because I was gripping it so hard, my knuckles turned white. This went on for maybe 2 or 3 minutes. They chatted about completely mundane things. Someone's husband was working late. A recipe that hadn't turned out right. Normal, everyday conversation. Then one of them noticed me staring at them. She gave me a polite smile, and they moved toward a different section. And just like that, it stopped. They were still talking as they walked away, but now it was just sounds again. Foreign, incomprehensible sounds. I followed them. I know that's strange, but I had to know what language they were speaking. I pretended to be shelving books nearby and listened, trying to catch even a single word I could identify. Nothing. It was completely unfamiliar again. Eventually, they came to the checkout desk, and I happened to be walking past. I casually asked one of them if they'd found everything they were looking for. Just standard librarian small talk. She answered in perfect English, with a slight accent I couldn't place. I wanted to ask her what language they'd been speaking, but I couldn't figure out how to phrase it without sounding insane. So I just smiled and said, "Have a nice evening. I've thought about this constantly since it happened. I've tried listening to recordings of various Eastern European languages online to see if any of them trigger that same feeling of comprehension. Nothing. Polish, Czech, Ukrainian, Bulgarian, Serbian, Romanian. I don't understand a single word. But for those 2 or 3 minutes in the library, I understood everything. Every word, every nuance, every little aside. Like I'd been speaking that language my whole life. I'm a rational person. I don't believe in psychic abilities or mystical experiences, but I don't know how else to explain what happened. It felt like accessing a memory I shouldn't have, like my brain briefly connected to something it normally can't reach. Has anyone else ever experienced anything like this? Understanding something you have absolutely no business understanding. This next one is short, but it's one of those that really makes you wonder about the nature of what we're seeing around us every day. Story 6. The Same Man 5 Times by Yu Do Morning. Commute. NYC. I take the subway to work every weekday morning. I've been doing the same commute for almost 6 years now. The 4 train from Borough Hall to Grand Central. I know the faces of the regular commuters, even if I don't know their names. You start to recognize people when you see them every single day. Last Tuesday was completely normal until it wasn't. I got on at Borough Hall like always, around 8:15. The car was crowded but not packed. I found a spot to stand near the doors and pulled out my phone to read the news. At the next stop, Nevin Street, a man got on. Tall, maybe early 40s, wearing a grey overcoat and carrying a brown leather messenger bag. He had a very distinctive face. Strong jawline, slightly crooked nose, salt and pepper hair cut short. He stood a few feet away from me, holding the overhead rail. At Atlantic Avenue, the doors opened and another man got on. Same grey overcoat, same brown leather bag, same face. Identical in every way. He moved to the other end of the car. I looked back and forth between them. They didn't acknowledge each other. They didn't seem to notice each other at all. At 14th Street, a third one got on. By the time I got to Grand Central, I had counted 5 of them. 5 identical men with grey overcoats and brown leather bags, spread throughout the same subway car. Same face, same posture, same expression. None of them ever looked at each other. None of the other passengers seemed to notice or react. I stood on the platform after I got off and watched the train pull away. Through the windows, I could see at least 3 of them still standing inside. I told my co-worker about it when I got to the office. She laughed and said, maybe they were quintuplets. But they weren't standing together. They got on at different stops. And nobody, not a single person on that crowded train, seemed to find it strange that there were 5 identical men in the same car. I've been watching for him ever since. I haven't seen even one of them again. It's like they only existed for that one commute. I don't know what I witnessed. Glitch in the simulation. Some kind of visual hallucination. But I was completely sober, completely awake, completely alert. And I know what I saw. 5 of the same man, same coat, same bag, same face. Like someone copy-pasted a character into the scene 5 times and forgot to give them different skins. All right, this next one is longer, but I promise it's worth your time. The level of detail in this submission is what really got me. Story 7. The House with the Extra Hallway by You First-Time Home Buyer, TX. My wife and I bought our first house last year in a suburb outside of Austin. It's a modest 3-bedroom built in the late 90s. Nothing fancy, just a nice starter home in a quiet neighborhood. We were so excited to finally have our own place after years of renting. But something happened about 4 months after we moved in that I still can't explain, and honestly, I'm not sure I want to. It was a Sunday afternoon in September. My wife had gone to visit her mother for the day, so I was home alone. I was doing some organizing in the garage, going through boxes we still hadn't unpacked, when I realized I needed a screwdriver that I thought I'd left in the kitchen junk drawer. I walked inside through the door that connects the garage to the laundry room. From there, you walk through a short hallway past the guest bathroom to get to the kitchen. I've made this walk probably 1,000 times since we moved in, but this time, the hallway didn't end where it was supposed to. I walked past the guest bathroom, expecting to turn right into the kitchen, but instead, the hallway kept going. It just continued straight ahead into a part of the house that doesn't exist. I stopped walking and stood there for a moment, trying to process what I was seeing. The walls were the same off-white color as the rest of the house. The flooring was the same laminate. There were even electrical outlets along the baseboards. But this hallway wasn't on our floor plan. I had studied that floor plan a dozen times before we bought the house. I knew every room, every closet, every corner. This shouldn't have been here. I don't know why I kept walking, but I did. The hallway went straight for maybe 30 feet, which already doesn't make sense, because that would put it well past the exterior wall of the house. Then it turned left. Around the corner, there was a door. Just a plain white interior door, same as all the other doors in our house. Same brushed nickel handle. I reached out and touched the door. It was solid, real. The metal of the handle was cool against my palm. I stood there for what felt like a long time, just staring at it. Every instinct in my body was telling me not to open it. There was this feeling of wrongness, like the air itself was thicker there, like I wasn't supposed to be seeing this. But I'm a rational person. I don't believe in haunted houses or supernatural nonsense. So I opened the door. Behind it was a room, empty, completely bare. No furniture, no windows. The walls were the same off-white as the hallway. The floor was the same laminate. But there was nothing in there except for a single light fixture in the ceiling, one of those basic dome lights, and it was on, glowing softly like every other light in the house. I stepped inside. The room was maybe 15 by 15 feet, normal size for a bedroom. But we don't have a room like this. We have 3 bedrooms, and I know where all of them are. I walked to the center of the room and looked around. The walls were smooth, freshly painted. There were no outlets that I could see, no closet doors, no vents. Just 4 walls, a floor, a ceiling, and that one light. I started to feel dizzy. Not like I was going to pass out, but like my brain was working too hard to understand something it couldn't process. I decided I needed to get out of there. I turned around and walked back through the door, down the hallway, around the corner. And then I was in my kitchen. I'm not describing this right. I didn't walk from the hallway into the kitchen. I turned the corner where that extra hallway had started, and I was already in the kitchen. The hallway was gone. The guest bathroom was right there, exactly where it should be. The short hallway from the laundry room ended exactly where it had always ended. I ran back to where I'd been standing. The wall was solid. I knocked on it. Just drywall over studs. Normal construction. I went outside and walked around the perimeter of the house. There was no extra space. No section that could have contained that hallway or that room. I measured. I'm not kidding. I got a tape measure and measured the exterior of the house, and then measured the interior rooms. They matched up perfectly. There was no missing space, no gap that could account for what I'd seen. When my wife came home, I told her everything. She didn't believe me at first, but she could see how shaken I was. We walked through the house together, checking every wall, every corner. Nothing was out of place. That night, I barely slept. I kept getting up and checking that hallway, making sure it was still normal. It always was. It's been 4 months now. I've never seen the extra hallway or that room again. The house is completely normal. But I was in there. I touched that door. I stood in that empty room. I felt the carpet under my feet. I've started researching the history of the property, trying to find out if there was ever a different floor plan or some kind of renovation. So far, I've found nothing. The house has looked exactly the same since it was built in 1998. I don't know what happened that day. I don't know if I somehow walked into a different version of my house, or if the house itself changed for a few minutes, or if I experienced some kind of extremely vivid hallucination. But I was sober. I wasn't tired. I wasn't stressed out about anything in particular. I was just walking to my kitchen to get a screwdriver. My wife thinks maybe I should talk to someone about it. A professional. And maybe she's right. But I don't feel crazy. I feel like I saw something I wasn't supposed to see. Something that was real, even if it shouldn't have been. I still live here. We can't afford to move, and honestly, nothing else has happened. But I don't walk through that hallway at night anymore. I take the long way through the living room instead. If anyone has any explanation for this, I'm genuinely open to hearing it, because I've gone over it 1,000 times, and nothing makes sense. Speaking of houses doing strange things, this next story takes it in a slightly different direction. Story 8. The Photo That Added a Person by You Family Album, 1994. This happened to me last Christmas, and I still haven't told most of my family about it, because I don't know how to explain it without sounding like I've lost my mind. Every year, my family gets together at my parents' house for Christmas dinner. We've been doing this my entire life. Same house in suburban Minneapolis. Same traditions, same people. After dinner, we always take a big group photo in front of the fireplace. My dad sets up his camera on a tripod and uses the timer so everyone can be in the picture. We've been doing this since I was a kid, and my parents have albums full of these photos going back decades. Last Christmas, everything was normal. We had dinner, exchanged gifts, told the same old stories. Around 8 o'clock, we gathered in front of the fireplace for the annual photo. There were 11 of us that year. My parents, my 2 brothers and their wives, my sister, my wife and me, and my brother's 2 kids. 11 people. I remember counting because we were trying to fit everyone in the frame. My dad took 3 shots, just to make sure at least one would turn out good. Standard procedure. We all went back to eating pie and watching football. A few days later, my mom sent the photos to the family group chat. She picked the best one of the 3, I opened it on my phone, and my stomach dropped. There were 12 people in the photo. Standing on the far left, partially behind my older brother, was a woman I had never seen before. She looked to be in her 50s, wearing a dark green sweater. She had short grey hair and was smiling at the camera just like everyone else. I immediately texted my mum and asked who the extra person was. She responded with a bunch of question marks. She said she didn't see an extra person. I zoomed in on my phone and took a screenshot of just that section of the image and sent it to her. She called me immediately. Her voice was shaking. She said that woman wasn't there. She said she had looked at the photo before sending it, and there were only 11 people. I asked my brothers. They both said the same thing. 11 people. No woman in a green sweater. My sister said she was looking at the photo right now, and only counted 11. But on my phone, there were 12. Clear as day. This woman standing right there, smiling like she belonged. I drove to my parents' house the next weekend. I wanted to see the photo on my dad's camera. When we pulled it up on his computer, there were 11 people. The woman wasn't there. But when I opened the same photo on my phone, she was still there. I showed my parents. They could see her on my phone. My mom started crying. She had no idea who this woman was. She didn't recognize her at all. I've since shown the photo to everyone in my family. On their devices, there are 11 people. On mine, there are 12. We've tried sending it to different phones, downloading it again. Everything. The version on my phone always has the extra woman. I don't know who she is. I've looked through old family photo albums trying to find her. Nothing. My mom went through her genealogy records and couldn't find anyone who matched the description. She's just there, standing in my family photo, smiling at the camera. I've thought about deleting the photo from my phone just to make it stop, but I can't bring myself to do it. I feel like she's supposed to be there, like maybe she always was, and everyone else just can't see her. I know how this sounds. I've questioned my own sanity more times than I can count. But the photo is real. She's real, and I'm the only one who can see her. To this day, I have no explanation for what I'm looking at. Hey, it's me again. I want to take a quick second to say that if you've got a glitch story you want to share, you can send it to the email in the description. I read every single submission that comes in. It's got to be true. It's got to be something that actually happened to you, and just try to be clear and detailed. Let me know how you want to be credited. Whether you want me to use your Reddit username, make one up, or just say anonymous. I really do read all of them, and a lot of the stories you've been hearing today came from people just like you, who decided to share their experiences. So if you've got something, send it in. All right, we've got more stories coming up, including one that involves a phone call that shouldn't have been possible, and another about a very strange encounter at a highway rest stop. Stay with me. Story 9. The Phone Call from Tomorrow by You Single Mom Denver. I'm going to tell you about something that happened to me last August, and I swear on my children's lives that every word of this is true. I'm not a person who believes in the paranormal. I'm a single mom with 2 kids. I work as an office manager, and I spend most of my free time doing laundry and driving to soccer practice. My life is aggressively normal, which is why what happened makes no sense at all. It was a Wednesday evening, around 7:30. I had just finished cleaning up after dinner. My kids were in the living room watching TV, and I was in the kitchen wiping down the counters. My phone rang, and when I looked at the screen, it showed my own number. My own phone number was calling me. I almost didn't answer. I figured it was some kind of spoofing scam, but something made me pick up anyway. Curiosity, I guess. When I answered, I heard my own voice, not a recording, not an echo. My voice, speaking to me in real time. I said, listen to me. Don't let the kids go to the park tomorrow. Keep them home. Please. I couldn't speak. I just stood there holding the phone, trying to understand what I was hearing. The voice sounded exactly like me. Same pitch, same cadence, same little catch in my throat that I get when I'm stressed. I finally managed to say, "Who is this?" And the voice said, "It's you. I know this doesn't make sense. I'm calling from Thursday. Just please, keep them home tomorrow." Then the line went dead. I stood in my kitchen for a long time after that. I checked my call history. The call was there, showing my own number as the incoming caller. Duration 42 seconds. I tried calling the number back, and it just rang through to my own voicemail. I didn't sleep well that night. I kept going back and forth about what to do. The rational part of my brain was saying it had to be some kind of elaborate prank or technical glitch, but the voice was so clearly mine, not similar to mine. Mine. The next morning, Thursday, I made a decision. I kept the kids home from school. I told them I wasn't feeling well, and we were going to have a lazy day at home. They were thrilled, obviously. Kids love unexpected days off. Around 3 in the afternoon, I got a notification on my phone from the neighborhood Facebook group. There had been an accident at the park 2 blocks from our house. A car had jumped the curb and crashed through the fence near the playground. 2 children were injured. Not killed, thank God, but hospitalized with serious injuries. The park where my kids play every Thursday after school. The same park. The same time we would have been there. I sat on my couch and cried. My kids thought I was sick and brought me tissues and water, which only made me cry harder. I don't know how to explain what happened. I don't know how I called myself from the future. I don't know if I'm living in some kind of timeline where that's possible, or if I experienced a glitch in reality, or if I've somehow lost my grip on sanity. But I know what I heard, and I know what didn't happen, because I listened. I've never received another call like that. I've never experienced anything else unusual. My life went back to normal after that day, but I saved that call in my phone history. I look at it sometimes, just to remind myself it was real. 42 seconds from my own number on a Wednesday night in August. I don't know what to call this. I just know my kids weren't at that park when the car came through the fence, and I think that's because I warned myself. All right, this next one is quick, but it's one of those that sticks with you. Story 10. The Billboard That Changed Overnight by UO Daily Commuter, AT. I drive the same route to work every single day. I've been doing it for 4 years, I-85 north to the Brookwood exit. Same stretch of highway, same billboards, same landmarks. I could probably drive it with my eyes closed at this point. Not that I would, but you know what I mean. There's this billboard right before my exit. It's been advertising the same personal injury law firm for as long as I can remember. Big picture of a lawyer with slicked back hair. Phone number in huge letters. Injured. Call now. Standard stuff. Last month, I was driving to work like always. It was a Tuesday, around 8 in the morning. I glanced up at the billboard as I approached my exit. And it was different. Completely different. Instead of the lawyer, it was advertising some kind of retirement community. Smiling elderly couple, palm trees in the background, "Your golden years await," in script font. I thought maybe they had finally changed it. Billboards get updated all the time. I didn't think much of it. But then, on Wednesday morning, the lawyer was back. Same slicked back hair, same phone number, same "injured? Call now." It was like the billboard had never changed. I asked my coworker about it. She drives the same route and passes the same billboard. She looked at me like I was crazy. She said it's always been the law firm. She's never seen anything about a retirement community. I started paying closer attention after that. Every single day, I look at that billboard. It's always the lawyer. Always. I've even taken photos of it with my phone to make sure I'm not losing my mind. But I know what I saw that Tuesday. The retirement community, the elderly couple, the palm trees. It was there, clear as day. I've started wondering if maybe, for just that one morning, I was driving through a slightly different version of reality. Like I slipped into the wrong lane for a few seconds, and then slipped back without realizing it. I know it sounds ridiculous. It's just a billboard. But it's made me start paying attention to other details too. Little things I never noticed before. And sometimes I wonder how many other things have changed without me realizing it. Makes you think, right? Okay, this next story is a longer one, and honestly, it's one of the most detailed submissions I've ever received. The person who sent this clearly spent a lot of time trying to figure out what happened to them. Story 11. The Rest Stop. That looped by you night driver interstate. I'm a long-distance driver, not a trucker, just someone whose job requires me to travel between client sites in different states. I cover mostly the Midwest and sometimes as far east as Pennsylvania. I've been doing this for about 8 years now, and I've spent more hours on interstates than I can count. I've seen plenty of strange things on late-night drives. Weird lights in the sky, animals behaving oddly, that sort of thing. But what happened to me last October is in a completely different category. I was driving back from a client visit in Ohio, heading home to Iowa. I'd left later than I planned and was looking at an 8-hour drive through the night. It was around 1 a.m, and I was somewhere in Indiana on I-70. The highway was almost completely empty. Just me and the occasional semi-truck passing in the other direction. I started feeling tired, so I decided to pull off at the next rest stop to stretch my legs, use the bathroom, and grab some coffee from the vending machine. Pretty standard routine for me on these drives. I saw the sign for a rest area in 2 miles, so I signaled and took the exit. The rest stop was small but typical. Parking lot with a few spaces, a brick building with restrooms and vending machines, some picnic tables off to the side. There were 2 other cars in the lot, a red sedan and a white SUV. Nobody outside that I could see. I parked, got out, and walked toward the building. The air was cold, and I remember I could see my breath. The lights in the parking lot were that yellow-orange color that makes everything look slightly unreal. I pushed open the door to the men's room and went inside. The bathroom was empty. I used the facilities, washed my hands, and walked back out. The whole thing took maybe 3 minutes. When I got back outside, my car was gone. I'm not exaggerating. I stood in the doorway of the rest stop building and looked at the parking lot. The red sedan was there. The white SUV was there. But my car, a dark blue Honda Accord, was not in the spot where I had parked it. My first thought was that someone had stolen it. I walked over to where I was absolutely certain I had parked, and there was nothing, just an empty parking space. I looked around the lot, thinking maybe I'd misremembered where I'd stopped. But no, it was a small lot. only about 20 spaces. My car wasn't there. I started to panic. I pulled out my phone to call the police, and that's when I noticed the time. According to my phone, it was 12:47 in the morning. When I had pulled into the rest stop, it had been 1:15. I remembered checking the clock on my dashboard. I had been inside the bathroom for maybe 3 minutes, but now my phone was telling me it was almost 30 minutes earlier than when I had arrived. I stood there in the cold, trying to make sense of this. The time was wrong. My car was gone. I didn't know what to do. Then I heard a car pulling into the lot. A dark blue Honda Accord pulled in and parked in a spot on the other side of the lot. The driver's side door opened, and I watched a man get out. It was me. I watched myself walk toward the rest stop building. I was wearing the same jacket, same jeans, same boots. I watched myself push open the door and disappear inside. I don't know how long I stood there. It felt like hours, but was probably only a few seconds. My brain was trying to catch up with what my eyes were seeing. I was watching myself do exactly what I had just done, but from the outside. I thought about going inside, confronting myself, seeing what would happen if we came face to face. But something stopped me. This deep, primal feeling of wrongness. Like if I went inside that building, something very bad would happen. Instead, I walked toward my car, the one that had just pulled in. My keys were in my pocket. I don't know how to explain that, but they were. I got in, started the engine, and pulled out of the rest stop as fast as I could. I checked my rearview mirror as I drove away. I could see the rest stop building getting smaller behind me, and I could swear I saw a figure standing in the parking lot, watching me drive away. I drove the rest of the way home without stopping. My hands were shaking the entire time. When I got home around 6 in the morning, I sat in my driveway for a long time, just trying to process what had happened. Here's the thing that really gets me. When I checked my phone later that day, there was a gap in my location history. Google Maps tracks everywhere I go, but between 1:10 and 1:50 that night, there's nothing. Just a blank space. Like I didn't exist for those 40 minutes. I've gone back to that rest stop since then, during the day, with my wife in the car. It looks completely normal. Brick building, parking lot, picnic tables. Nothing unusual at all. But I refuse to stop there. And I refuse to drive that stretch of I-70 at night anymore. I reroute through a different highway, even though it adds an hour to my trip. I've thought about this every single day since it happened. I've come up with theories. Maybe I somehow slipped backward in time and saw myself arriving. Maybe the rest stop exists in some kind of temporal bubble. Maybe I'm losing my mind, and none of it was real. But my keys were in my pocket. My car was running. I drove home. Those things were real. I saw myself walk into that rest stop. I watched it happen. I don't know which version of me walked out. Hey, quick thing before we get to the next story. I've been thinking a lot lately about something one of you wrote in a comment on the last video. Someone said that these stories make them feel less alone, because they've experienced things they couldn't explain, and always assumed they were the only one. And that really stuck with me. I think that's one of the reasons I keep making these videos. Not because I have answers, I definitely don't, but because I think there's something valuable in knowing that other people are experiencing strange things too. Whatever is happening, whether it's glitches in reality or quirks of perception or something we don't have a name for yet, it's happening to a lot of people. And there's something comforting about that, even if the experiences themselves are unsettling. Anyway, I just wanted to say, thanks for being here and for sharing your stories. It means a lot. All right, one more story, and then we're moving on to something a little different. Story 12. The Reflection That Was Late by Yu Bathroom, Mirror, to Ohio. I want to tell you about something that happened to me in February of this year. I've gone over it in my head probably 100 times, and I still don't have an explanation for it. I'm not someone who spooks easily. I work in construction, I'm pretty practical and grounded, and I don't really believe in ghosts or anything like that. But what I saw that morning shook me in a way I can't fully describe. It was early, around 6:15. I was getting ready for work in my bathroom. Standard morning routine. I'd just gotten out of the shower and was standing at the sink in front of the mirror, brushing my teeth. The bathroom light was on, and it was still dark outside, so the mirror was reflecting the room pretty clearly. I was looking at myself, not really paying attention, just going through the motions. I tilted my head to the left to get a better angle on my back teeth. My reflection didn't move. I'm not talking about a slight delay. I'm saying I moved, and my reflection stayed completely still for at least a full second. Then it tilted its head, copying the motion I had already made. I froze, toothbrush still in my mouth. I stared at my reflection, and it stared back at me. It was doing what I was doing now, standing still, but I couldn't shake the feeling that what I had just seen was real. I decided to test it. I raised my right hand slowly. There was a delay, maybe half a second. My reflection raised its hand after mine. I lowered my hand quickly. My reflection was late again. This went on for maybe 30 seconds. Me making small movements, my reflection copying them, but always just slightly behind, like it was watching me and reacting instead of mirroring me instantly like it should. Then I did something stupid. I stepped toward the mirror. I don't know what I was planning to do. Get a closer look, maybe. See if there was something wrong with the glass. My reflection stepped toward me at the same time. Perfectly synchronized. Like whatever had been causing the delay was suddenly gone. I reached out and touched the mirror. It was just glass, cold, smooth, normal. My reflection touched it too, perfectly aligned with my hand. I stood there for a long time, watching, making small movements, waiting for another delay. Nothing. It was perfectly normal. I finished getting ready for work. I didn't tell my wife about it, because I didn't know how to explain it. What was I going to say? The mirror was lagging. But I've been watching that mirror ever since. Every morning when I'm in there, I pay attention, make sudden movements, change direction quickly, try to catch it being late again. It's always normal now. Perfect synchronization, just like mirrors are supposed to work. But I know what I saw that morning. My reflection was moving independently of me. It was reacting to my movements instead of copying them instantly. For 30 seconds, it was like there was someone else in that mirror, pretending to be me, and not quite getting it right. I've started using the mirror in the hallway instead. The bathroom mirror makes me nervous now. I can't explain it, but I feel like something in there is watching me, waiting to mess up again. I know how this sounds. Trust me, I've questioned my own sanity plenty of times since February, but I was completely awake. I was sober. I wasn't tired. It was just a normal Tuesday morning, and my reflection was late. If anyone has any kind of explanation for what might cause something like this, I'm all ears. Because I've got nothing. All right, we've got one more segment coming up, and it's something a little different. We're going to step back in time for a bit and look at a case from history that has baffled researchers for over a century. This one is wild, and I think you're really going to want to hear it. Stay with me,